The first thing we're going to do is go over some good old Joey
Do we have to?
nonsense. We have to, because I sat through it yesterday. It was 39 minutes of his speech, 40 minutes of his speech. I can't get that time back. That time is lost forever. But it was very interesting because, we talk about the exploitation of the establishment and the mainstream media and the Democratic Party, like they like to exploit situations. This was a full-on exploitation, 100%. But, I think, fam, I know I've talked about this story before with Niko when it comes to Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. They call it the Tulsa Massacre. I call it Black Wall Street. And I think there's a lot more to the story that I haven't learned yet. And I was kind of looking around, but there was so much going on. So I'm not going to talk too much in depth about what really happened in Oklahoma in 1921. I want to find some people. I'm going to reach out to Teodros, see if he got any information about it. But from what Niko told me a long time ago, it's very nuanced what happened over there. There was a lot of bankers and whatnot, and a lot of wealth being accumulated by people of color in 1921 in Tulsa, and supposedly it was taken out. But Joe Biden came, and he did a speech to kind of compare what happened in 1921 to what happened on January 6th. Literally, fam, doing that to keep this January 6th talk alive, even using words like domestic terrorism and whatnot and stuff. And I went through the speech. He also talked about fun stuff we're going to go over about elections as well. So I broke it down. You excited and you ready?
No, so excited.
John, you got anything to say before we get rolling? All right, let's get rolling with this Joey nonsense. So in the beginning, he went there to Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was supposed to be some people who were over 100 years old that he met there. They were in the crowd. I'd say it was about a crowd of about 100 people kind of spread out, if that. And he went on a tour with them, and they talked to them and whatnot. So he was referring to them like Uncle June and Aunt Beth and, typical Joe Biden bullshit fascism, referring to these people. And even sometimes he kind of slipped up too as well. But let's take a look. He uses the word. Watch the word he uses at the very end of this one. This is a couple minutes. He's talking about what happened that night. He's already got to the point where he warmed up the crowd, and now he's going to talk about what happened in 1921.
One night changed everything. Everything changed. While Green was a community to itself, it was not separated from the outside. It wasn't everyone, but there was enough hate, resentment, and vengeance in the community. Enough people who believed that America does not belong to everyone, and not everyone is created equal. Native Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, Black Americans. A belief enforced by law, by badge, by hood, and by noose that speaks to that lit the fuse. It lit it by the spark that it provided. A fuse of fury was an innocent interaction that turned into a terrible, terrible headline allegation of a black male teenager attacking a white female teenager. A white mob of 1,000 gathered around the courthouse where the black teenager is being held. Ready to do what still occurred, lynch that young man that night. But 75 black men, including black veterans, arrived to stand guard. Words were exchanged, then a scuffle, then a shots fired. Hell was unleashed. Literal hell was unleashed. Through the night and into the morning, the mob terrorized Greenwood, torches and guns, shooting at will. A mob tied a black man by the waist to the back of their truck with his head banging along the pavement as they drove off. A murdered black family draped over the fence of their home outside. An elderly couple knelt by their bed praying to God with their heart and their soul when they were shot in the back of their heads. Private planes dropping explosives. The first and only domestic aerial assault of its kind on an American city, here in Tulsa. 8 of Greenwood's nearly 24 churches burned like Mount Zion across the street at Vernon AME. Mother Randall said it was like a war. Mother Fletcher says all these years later, she still sees black bodies around.
There you go. So you can see Mother Randall, Fletcher, whatnot, using the word domestic, talking about it. It's an isolated incident, kind of comparing it to January 6th. You'll see he does this throughout the most part of his speech, whatnot. I don't know how a person like Joe Biden can give the eulogy for a KKK member and then come talk about these issues right over here in Tulsa. I don't know how he can pull it off and people can buy it. Like, this man is making this speech over here, and it's.
Does he actually compare it to January 6th?
He talks about January 6th a couple times, like it's going on today, and you'll see towards the end he ties it all in. He talks about January 6th, but he paints the whole picture. He uses words. And here's the next part of it. The problem is pretty much it's with everyday people. You know what I'm saying? It's all about the way people treat each other. It's not about the people upstairs who are doing things. It's about the way we treat each other. In other words, they're painting this thing with society. Like, I feel like a lot of the issues we have with society are the people who are controlling us, the elites who are making the laws, who are just pretty much pillaging from everyday people, whatnot. But once again, this whole sentiment that this is an issue between us, it's got nothing to do with them. It's got nothing to do with the way the government is running things. It's got nothing to do with our foreign policy or spending. It's us. So.
Oh, yeah, they're never going to take the blame.
Hadn't seen before, or simply refused to see, cannot be ignored any longer. You see it in so many places. And there's greater recognition that for too long, we've allowed a narrowed, cramped view of the promise of this nation to fester. The view that America is a zero-sum game where there's only one winner. If you succeed, I fail. If you get ahead, I fall behind. If you get a job, I lose mine. And maybe worst of all, if I hold you down, I lift myself up. Instead of, if you do well, we all do well. We see that in Greenwood. This story isn't about the loss of life, but a loss of living, of wealth and prosperity and possibilities that still reverberates today. Mother Fletcher talks about how she was the only able to attend school in the 4th grade and eventually found work in the shipyards as a domestic worker. Mr. Van Ellis has shared how even after enlisting and serving in World War II, he still came home to struggle with a segregated America.
Fam, anything to say about that? I mean, he's trying to bolster capitalism in a way, whatnot, I guess.
No, I mean, he's contradicting himself because that's capitalism. What you're saying is when I'm up, you're down. That's capitalism. Like, that's the whole point. Like, competition, like, people, profits over people, and not in he's talking about it being changing that, and he wants us to have an opportunity, all to have the same opportunity, but with the policies he's not pushing, that's never going to happen. So it's just a complete and total bullshit. And then this is where he starts comparing, like, it's still happening, all this other crap. What are you talking about? Who the hell actually asked him to come and speak on this shit? Like, it's so
well,
gross.
they were going to take advantage of the whole situation. Like I said, he does mention January 6th in this situation, and that's why he's kind of building up these stories. I think it's more about, like, it's
division
it's not
among people, and
it's not capitalism, fam. It's this guy over here who's got to think that he's got to do good and I got to do bad. It's not the system. It's that guy.
Right.
So, and that's what I'm getting at. It's more divisive kind of talks, very divisive and whatnot. And then I start to laugh because now he starts talking for 48 years, this jerk off. Excuse me, that's our president. I apologize. He starts talking about redlining and all this other stuff. But this is a guy who didn't want to grow his kids growing up in a racial jungle. Here he is, Joe.
Family is too often appraised at a lower value than a similar home owned by a white family. And I might add, and I need help if you have answered this one, I can't figure this one out, Congressman Horsford, but if you live in a black community and there's another one on the other side of the highway. It's a white community. It's built by the same builder, and you have a better driving record than the guy with the same car in the white community, you're getting paid more for your auto insurance. Shockingly, the percentage of black American homeownership is lower today in America than when the Fair Housing Act was passed more than 50 years ago. Lower today. That's wrong.
So, I just had to point that out because this is a guy who said he didn't want his kids growing up in a racial jungle. Like, he's talking about people living together, and now he's here giving a speech going, oh, my God, and I'm going to fix it. I haven't done any shit in how long, but I'm going to fix it.
And also he wrote the crime bill, which screwed a lot of people.
Yeah.
And kept them in poverty, kept them with their records, which, prevented them from getting good jobs. It's the whole thing. He is the architect of the system. That's why myself and others, like Chris Hedges, have always said, like, Biden is worse than Trump because Trump is just inherited a system that Biden helped create. And that's something that a lot of these people who were pushing him this whole time completely just avoided talking about.
This part almost sounded like Donald Trump. Build back better in the USA, fam. Listen to this.
Every taxpayer's dollar that is assigned to me to spend going to American companies and American workers that build American products. And as part of that, I'm going to increase the share of the dollars the federal government spends to small disadvantaged businesses, including black and brown small businesses. Right now it calls for 10%. I'm going to move that to 15% of every dollar spent will be spent with all. I have the authority to do that. Just imagine if instead of denying millions of entrepreneurs the ability to access capital and contracting, we made it possible to take their dreams to the marketplace to create jobs and invest in our communities. The data shows young black entrepreneurs are just as capable of succeeding given the chance as white entrepreneurs are.
Okay, so
wow.
This is NAFTA Joe. This is a guy who went around and pushed globalism to get the factories out of America, send them to China so his corporate goods can make huge profits over with slave labor in all these other countries. Literally, people dying in sweatshops at the time in the 90s, the 2000s, and this guy was behind it all. This is Joe who did that.
And not only that, he's being condescending. Like, black workers are equally capable. Like, what? Like, duh. Like, that's something you don't have to say anymore. Yeah.
Well, watch this part, fam. This is what I mean. Well, a little bit more on what you're saying there. Watch. This is just nauseating. Yeah. Watch this part.
Shouldn't be better off from the investments those people make, and I promise you, that's why I set up this National Small Business Administration that's much broader, because they're going to get those loans. Instead of consigning millions of American children to under-resourced schools, let's get each and every child 3 and 4 years old access to school, not daycare, school. In the last 10 years.
I think I had the time wrongs on that.
Oh.
It was what followed after NAFTA though. He pretty much said that, like, can you just go back to the 2910 real quick and see if that's just play it from there? I must have messed up on the time. I'm sorry.
As capable of succeeding given the chance as white entrepreneurs are. But they don't have lawyers, they don't have accountants, but they have great ideas. Does anyone doubt this whole nation would be better off from the investments those people make? And I promise you, that's why I set up this.
Pretty much. They don't. Black people don't have accountants. They don't have lawyers. They don't have anything. There are black lawyers. There are black accountants. This is I don't know. When I heard this, I was like, no, did he just say that shit out loud?
It's so cringy.
It is cringe.
It is. It's very cringy. And again, he went back on his word of doing student debt forgiveness. And he's talking about education. So he can only say, well, I want to invest in preschool, blah, 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 because he's gone back on any sort of free education or any sort of debt forgiveness for actual students who are in debt, thanks to his policies as well. especially with the bankruptcy bill.
Exactly.
So
you can't even. Yeah.
Everywhere. I mean, this guy's just everywhere.
You're right. You can't even declare bankruptcy with those loans and stuff. Right. You have to pay them back. Here's another part. 3124. I hope I got the times right.
Let's ensure access to health care, clean water, clean air, nearby grocery stores, stocked with fresh vegetables and food that in fact deal with. I mean, these are all things we can do. Does anyone doubt this whole nation will be better off with these investments? The rich will be just as well off. The middle class will do better, and everybody will do better.
Care about the rich and the middle
it's
class.
It's about good paying jobs, financial stability, and being able to build some generational wealth.
There you go.
It's about economic growth for our...
You can't build generational wealth when you're already in debt, like thousands of dollars, and houses, housing prices have gone up, rent has gone up, wages are the same. How the hell can you fucking build generational wealth, you idiot? Like, I don't...
Literally talked about the rich, too, by the way.
Yeah, the rich will be fine. Of course, we know that, John.
We know the rich will be fine.
And
that's all right.
In power.
Let the rich have their money. Yeah. I'll give you guys some stuff, too.
Yeah.
But ignore them.
You're not
Who cares if they're exploiting all the workers?
And access to health care. He went back on the public option thing he was pushing. So there you go.
All right. I just want to point out really quick, Johnny, when he says the right to vote right here, and then we can just jump right to the next timeline, because he does a lot of, Joe Biden, hot air, not saying anything, so. This video seems to be a little bit ahead. Is this the one from YouTube?
A lot of the members of the Black Caucus knew John Lewis better than I did, but I knew him.
Can you go back a little bit? I don't know why my times are different. Could they have changed something today or added something in? Yeah, I know. I don't know why my times are off, and I literally checked this shit. Just go back 3:12 then. 32:12. Sorry.
The most fundamental. The right to vote. The right to vote.
And then, it looks like it's off by like 10 seconds, 11 seconds. So the next one, he talks about the right to vote, but now he starts talking about these bills and what's going on, and he uses the same talking point. More people voted in this election, fam, than any election in history. So 33-51 is where we'll go.
Tireless assault on the right to vote. Restrictive laws, lawsuits, threats of intimidation, voter purges, and more. We resolved to overcome it all, and we did. More Americans voted in the last election in the midst of a pandemic, than any election in American history.
As that part, and you can just let it play. Because it's
You got voters registered. You got voters to the polls. The rule of law held. Democracy prevailed. We overcame. But today, let me be unequivocal. I've been engaged in this work my whole career, and we're going to be ramping up our efforts to overcome again. I will have more to say about this at a later date, a truly unprecedented assault on our democracy, an effort to replace nonpartisan election administrators and to intimidate those charged with tallying and reporting the election results. But today, as for the act of voting itself, I urge voting rights groups in this country to begin to redouble their efforts now to register and educate voters. And in June should be a month of action on Capitol Hill. I hear all the folks on TV saying, why doesn't Biden get this done? Well, because Biden only has a majority of effectively 4 votes in the House and a tie in the Senate, with 2 members of the Senate who vote more with my Republican friends. But we're not giving up. Earlier this year, the House of Representatives passed For the People Act to protect our democracy. The Senate will take it up later this month, and I'm going to fight like heck with every tool at my disposal for its passage. The House is also working on the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which is critical to providing new legal tools to combat the new assault on the right to vote. To signify the importance of our efforts, today I'm asking Vice President Harris to help these efforts and lead them among her many other responsibilities. With her leadership and your support, We're going to overcome again, I promise you, but it's going to take a hell of a lot of work. And finally,
fam, your thoughts on that? I mean, listen. I mean, it might sound good what he's saying, whatnot, but he's really twisting the truth of what's going on. And we all know this is election integrity activist. When he goes, you need to double down your efforts. Oh, we are, Joe. We are, to make these things fair and stuff like that. But it's the same tennis ball going back and forth from the left and right, not really addressing the serious issues, saying it's all about accessibility, more people were able to vote, yada, 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 and still ignoring the fact that half the country doesn't even believe that those votes were legitimate votes, a lot of them. So, I mean, the fact that you're not even acknowledging them and going, look, they are legitimate votes and showing your work, you're still trying to shut it down and saying, oh, you're stupid for wanting these audits.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to say they're not going to do anything to actually have legitimacy in this country. He says that, this is the election where most people voted, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's bullshit. And he says, they're undermining our democracy now, that now the voting rights are being attacked. Voting rights have been attacked forever. Like, this is nothing new. The right and the Democratic Party have both attacked people's voting rights, whether it was voter suppression and like pillaging people's names off the voter rolls, or whether it was like keeping the people's names on the voter rolls and sending them to the wrong person, weaponizing COVID-19 to use mail-in ballots, drop-off boxes to get rid of any sort of security, weaponizing identity, weaponizing tokenizing minorities to make it seem like suppression is the only issue, when we know damn well that it's the fact that we can't look inside machines, that our elections are run in a way that is so heavily reliant on tech and the internet, that there's no security in our elections, that anybody can come in and hack, and that we can't even ask questions because we get the whole, well, we'll call you, and you never get a phone call. And if you go to look into it, they'll deny you. It's black box voting. We have absolutely no idea who accesses these machines, and the whole process during the primary is targeted to disrupt the progressive from ever getting any sort of like advancement, and including third parties. And the For the People Act is a bunch of bullshit, and we all know it. It's to just crush any sort of third party dissent. It's to really just pretend that they're doing something that they're not doing. And it's frustrating when people regurgitate these talking points as if Biden is doing anything when he shouldn't even be there. Biden was polling so low, he was about to drop out. Did people forget about that? Yeah. That everybody was asking him, including the mainstream media, to drop out because he had no chance. And then all of a sudden, you think that all of a sudden people change their minds and we're like, yeah, let's all just vote for Joe Biden. No, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And people still acting like this was a legitimate election or doing actual disservice to any sort of semblance of democracy that exists, because we don't have any right now. Your fucking votes don't count. It doesn't matter. We're not electing people. People are being selected, and not even that. People are being selected as PR narrative managers for the state agencies. That's all they are. That's all Congress is. That's all the Senate is. They just put on theatrics. I might as well apply. I might as well go in there and pretend to be this senator and do powerful speeches on the floor, and yet do absolutely nothing for the fucking people. That's all it fucking is.
I think of this book, and I look at this book, Now We Can Speak. What's his name gave this to me? It was an awesome book, but it talks about in the North Triangle, the way the CIA and these three-letter agencies use these tactics.
Ernesto?
Mm-hmm. And the CIA, they use these tactics. They understand the mentality of what's going on in people, and they use their mindset to twist things, to push things that aren't really true, push their narrative, push their ways. Joe's doing the same thing here, too, as well, and a lot of progressives are getting duped. Oh, it's For the People's Act. It's John Lewis. We got to get the right for people to vote. Yep. Nobody's denying the fact that people of color were denied the right to vote for many years in this country.
Right.
Nobody's denying what happened in Florida with the cross-reference list. But there's more to it than just that. And if you want to believe for 1 second that this zombie over here got more votes than any president in the history of our existence, then I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn, because it's just, it couldn't be anything further from the truth.
To sell you.
Yeah.
In Antarctica.
So he's there to go push that, there's Republicans around the world. And let me tell you something. In these Republican bills, they'll still void of eliminating proprietary software. If they were really serious about what's going on, they'd say, okay, no more proprietary software. We're not going to have black box voting. We're going to either count our ballots or get open source software. If they would acknowledge that, I would believe 100% in what they're doing. But, they also have their own luggage, too, when they're coming into this situation, even though some of these bills are legit. The majority of it's legit. We should have identifications on absentee ballots. We shouldn't have just drop boxes everywhere where one side wants to put them. They should be eliminated. In fact, I think they should be eliminated altogether, but that's just my personal opinion because there's no chain of custody. If there's a camera on it and it's tracked the whole time, then I'm cool with it. However, they're not going after the meat and potatoes of the situation. They're still playing the whole ghost of Hugo Chavez. So this is a situation where I say in the whole macro sense of things, you got a lot of Republicans doing some good things, but they're still playing ball and doing the bullshit things, as well as the Democrats playing ball and doing their bullshit things, trying to expand mail-in ballots and a national bill. It's not going to work. The states have the rights to choose what they want to do. They already went around these legislation bodies and changed these laws illegally and still got away with it, and they're still trying to do it again. They're trying to double down on it. That's why they put that out there as a precedent to say, look at the H.R. 1. This is what you need to pass in your state, something like this.
Yeah.
And it's not working.
Yeah, it's the tug and pull.
Yeah.
It's the game. Oh, we're going to say this, they're going to oppose it, they're going to say that, we're going to oppose it, and on it goes, and nothing fucking changes until you fucking realize that that's the little game they're playing, and you take their game and you throw it out. And you say, fuck your game, I'm not playing by your rules anymore. We're going to change the game. It's not going to be a game anymore. It's going to be something else. Until you do that, they're going to keep doing this over and over again. And people are going to keep believing that the next politician is going to fucking save them. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. Oh, Nina Turner tomorrow, the next day. Oh, who is it going to be? If it's not Elizabeth Warren, oh, maybe AOC down the line. Maybe somebody else. Who the hell knows? Who is the next progressive darling to prop out of the DSA and out of this bullshit? No, it's going to go on and on and on. And they're going to put a right-wing boogeyman. Tom Cotton's going to run. And you're going to have to be like, damn it, Tom Cotton really sucks, because he really does. I can't stand the guy. And people are going to be like, I know, but maybe next time we'll get him, sucker. We'll get him next time, Charlie. Next time you can kick the football. Next time she won't remove the fucking football. No, it's always going to be the same bullshit.
Yeah. It's funny because when you were describing the tug and pull of the Democrats and the Republicans, I thought you were talking about a rehearsal for professional wrestling. Like, you hit me here, I'll duck there, and then I'll lift you up over there. And you throw it, you know what I'm saying, like that?
It is.
And this whole, like, oh, we're going to fight racism, but yet Joe Biden, oh, well, we'll excuse that form of racism. I mean, the guy's a segregationist who said he didn't want his kids growing up in a racial jungle, and he's over here giving a speech about race in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yeah. It's nauseating. Yeah. And here's the final hook, line, and sinker, fam. Once again, talking about white supremacy being the most dangerous thing, more dangerous than ISIS, according to Joe Biden. I'm not going to say yes or no about that, but the fact that he would even pull that in there to swing people a certain way, right, to make you think that it's always just this person, it's your neighbor who's your enemy. No, your neighbor's not your enemy. You're the elites who are running things and manipulating things. They are your enemy. Here's Joe, Zombie Joe, closing it out.
It exists today still. Just close your eyes. And remember what you saw in Charlottesville 4 years ago on television. Neo-Nazis, white supremacists, the KKK, coming out of those fields at night, Virginia, with lighted torches, the veins bulging on their as they were screaming. Remember, just close your eyes and picture what it was. Well, Mother Fletcher said when she saw the insurrection at the Capitol on January the 9th, it broke her heart. A mob of violent white extremists, thugs, said reminded her of what happened here in Greenwood 100 years ago. Look around at the various hate crimes against Asian Americans and Jewish Americans. Hate that never goes away. Hate only hides. Jesse, I think I mentioned this to you. I thought after you guys pushed through with Dr. King, the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, I thought we were moved.
That's brave.
But what I didn't realize, I thought we had made enormous progress, and I was so proud to be a little part of it. But you know what, Rev? I didn't realize hate's never defeated. It only hides. It hides. And given a little bit of oxygen, Just a little bit of oxygen buys leaders. It comes out of there from under the rock like it was happening again, as if it never went away. And so, folks, we must not give hate a safe harbor. As I said in my address to the joint session of Congress, according to the intelligence community, terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today. Not ISIS, not Al-Qaeda, white supremacists.
Like you.
That's not me. That's the intelligence community under both Trump and under my administration.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like you, white supremacists like you, Joe, because what's the United States doing now? Oh, that's right. They're pushing white supremacy on Palestinians by allowing Israel to continuously kill them in a slow genocide.
That's not a lie.
Is that not white supremacy? Or what about our interventionist sanctions in Venezuela, our sanctions in Ethiopia? What about our sanctions all over any place that we deem too crazy to stand up to us, to not allow us to just interject into their affairs that we have no business interjecting into? Isn't that white supremacy? Because to me, that's white supremacy. What about the Libyan slave trade? Wasn't that white supremacy? Wasn't that white supremacy, Joe? Like, it's like the people who will buy into it. I'm sorry. It's like too far gone now. There's no time to peddle this bullshit anymore. People like Joe Biden are the epitome of white supremacist culture, yet he's weaponizing these people who idiotically, a lot of them broke shit and did all these things because you didn't listen to the fact that they didn't believe that the elections were fair. And you should have taken that and said, fine, we'll prove it to you. We'll have a full audit. We'll have it all in public. But no, because you know what? You couldn't allow that to happen because it would expose your ass. All of the establishment. It would expose all of your asses. So you had to make a theatrics out of it. Simultaneously, you needed to pass legislation to continue oppressing people and make it look like it's something they asked for. It's very, very, very beautiful psychological warfare here. Oh yeah, let's make it look like these people want to have more security, because we need that for their safety, for their own good. So what did we do? Oh, we put in the squad. We put in AOC to do her whole theatrics and talk about her trauma. And then the whole of Congress gets to talk about their trauma as millions of Americans are losing their jobs, getting kicked out of their homes, have zero health care. They get to talk about their trauma and put it on the front page while everything else gets fucking ignored. Simultaneously, we're still giving money to the worst people in the world, the fucking Zionists in Israel, and this is all a part of the plan. This is all part of the next phase, which is like, let's continue living in this Huxley Orwellian reality where you're gonna have zero rights. Your First Amendment rights are being shat on all over the country, not just on the ground via protests, but also through censorship, Google, big tech, all of that shit. And then of course, you get idiots like promoting the Green New Deal as if that's anything more than a corporate takeover for the environment, of everything we fucking love and hold dear to us. And then it's just one thing after another. And Joe Biden is sitting there trying to tell you that you need to turn on some uneducated person because they said something awful to you. We have seen and witnessed people say racist things. Those people are idiots. The people in power, the predator class, are those that you need to look up to. He's telling you to go after your neighbor because that way they get off scot-free.
Yep. If we turn the people against each other, then we run off on all the resources. I think it was said by George Carlin and what was the guy who wrote the book, The Art of War.
Oh yeah, his name escapes me, but I know what you're talking about.
I don't want to say his name wrong because I know. I think it's Sing Su, but I could be wrong. I didn't want to say it, and I said it and stuff. But this is the guy who also, once again, he supported the EU sorts side when it came to Ukraine. He actually supported neo-Nazis, the Azov Battalion in Ukraine. I mean, that's who this guy, and he's sitting there talking about Charlottesville and whatnot. This is a guy who pushed for the Iraq War. Like, he had an hour-long speech in the Senate floor when he was pushing the Democrats to get involved with the Iraq War. How many brown people did you kill in that war right there? Millions you displaced. Okay? Right. This guy pushed back in the day for the Mujahideen to get funding. You know what I'm saying? This guy has pushed every single bit of war out there, whatnot, killed indigenous people in their homeland, and now wants to come and give you a lesson about what's going on. And it's all about, it's hate. fam. It's hiding.
Yeah.
And we got to, and
It
he
is
manufactures
hiding. It's hiding at the
consent.
tippy top.
Yeah, it is. It's hiding. What she just said. It is hiding at the tippy top is right. But he's also manufacturing consent for laws to come that will take away your civil liberties.
Right.
We got to crush it now. We got to stop it now. So you got to let my FBI, and this is the intelligence community, fam. We got to let them spy on everybody.
Worse than ISIS, who literally we helped fund and create, and who's still pushing damage all over the region. And you're talking about comparing this dude who came in and like farted on Nancy Pelosi's desk to be like the freaking like comparison worse than ISIS.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Nobody's buying that story anymore. Very few people are, and they're part of that neoliberal class that they're like, oh my God, oh let me clutch my pearls a little bit.
The neo-progressives are buying
it. Oh
it.
my God, of course they are, but they're part of they're the new brand of liberals. They're the new liberals that just got off their fucking little training and they're just full-fledged.
Yeah, and they believe the shit. They take the bait, and it's kind of sad. You know, that whole speech right there was scary, whatnot. And he can barely get through it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
the stuttering and the whatnot. And so
Well,
that was him exploiting the whole situation, what happened in Tulsa. And really, to tell you the truth, I'm going to dive a little bit into that story. I want to get back to that story.
Yeah.
I want to get the real information from people who have a lot of knowledge on that, what really happened, because I know there's a lot of economics involved, whatnot. And I believe some people have told me, like, these orders that came from the tippy top to once again destroy that place, to make sure it was burnt down to the ground. It wasn't just a bunch of, what he's comparing, like people on January 6th who were just, once again, the majority of people that were there on January 6th didn't believe in the election results. And
that was by design. They wanted them to do that.
Yeah.
They wanted them to do that.